All right, everyone. It is Friday, and we are here once again with Manufacturing E-Commerce Success. I am Damon Pistolka, one of your co-hosts, and right over there, that pretty man right there,
Dude.
Curt Anderson, my co-host. Take it away, Curt.
Damon, dude, it's just so good to have you back, man. I mean, you can't leave me again like that. So Nancy, Damon goes on this wonderful 2-week vacation with his wife. He's up and down the West Coast. So God bless him. What a great time. And then I was just, man. So, all right, I'm just glad to have you back, my friend. So,
Yep.
Hey guys, happy Friday. Man, am I fired up. Damon, I don't know if you guys noticed, like I even did my hair for today. Like this is such
I did. I was going to say something about it.
Yes, this is such a powerhouse event today, man. I am like, Damon, it's like I have butterflies. I don't know if I've ever had butterflies on this program before. It's like,
yeah, you're too kind. But, this has been such a long time in coming. It feels like we've known each other forever, but we haven't. But gosh, I mean, it was like from the first 2 seconds we spoke, we gotta do a LinkedIn.
We gotta do this. So Nancy, you had me at hello. So guys, I'm a big introduction to Nancy O'Leary from Chicago. So Nancy, happy Friday. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. And I just want to mention, Mrs. O'Leary from Chicago, and yes, originally born and bred Chicago, and there are dairy farm roots in my family on my mom's side, but we are no relation to the original Mrs. O'Leary, and it was not her cow. It was actually Peg Leg Sullivan who kept moonshine in his peg leg that caused all the problems. Enough said.
You know what? Drop the mic, dude. Like
I wasn't going there, but she did.
We're not even 2 minutes into the program, and Nancy just like spelled it out. She dispelled the myth. It was not Mrs. O'Leary's cow. Thank you.
Yes.
And you weren't expecting a history lesson, but there you go. Boom.
And here's the thing. For full disclosure, Kate O'Leary, the cow. That was going to be one of my first questions.
Nice.
I did not know.
She read my mind. So Nancy, man, we are just you're my soul sister. We have so much fun to talk about. Guys, hey, Gary Woods in the house. I met Gary in person this week. Damon, we got to talk about that. Man, what a rock star he is. John Baglino's here. Diane Islam is here. Guys, happy Friday. Drop a note in the chat box. Let us know that you're here. Nancy is super fired up. She's an e-commerce guru for manufacturers. Encourage you, invite you, welcome you to connect with Nancy on LinkedIn. We have a lot of good stuff to cover. Nancy, Damon, I'm still going with my first question though. I'm still going with Nancy. So I'm not very original. I have the same question I ask on every program. So are you sitting down?
You may have heard it before.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Should be ready for it.
Nancy is a little girl growing up in Chicago, not part of the tragic fire that went on. That is not in your family heritage whatsoever. You just clarified that for all of us. As a little girl growing up in Chicago, could you please share with us who was your hero? Who was your hero as a little girl growing up that created this powerhouse that you are?
Without a doubt, my dad.
Nice.
I'm the youngest of 3 girls, and they used to call us the twins because I'm literally just a carbon copy of my dad.
Oh my, that's awesome.
I have 4 sons, and 3 of them really take after my husband, and the 4th child, who wasn't necessarily expected, but welcome and thrilled nonetheless.
Yes.
He is my clone. So my mom used to always say when we were misbehaving to whichever one of us, I hope you have a child just like you.
And now you do.
And Charlie, because I mean, he's me.
And it came true. And what's Dad's name?
Lou.
All right. Hey, big shout out to Lou. And Damon and I are huge girl dads. So that's one of our favorite answers, Nancy. So big shout out and love to Lou. Why was Lou such a hero? Let's hear about Lou.
He really took on the responsibility of having a family and shouldered that without complaining, with just being a really dynamic, fun guy. He was the guy that you wanted at every party. The neighborhood always came to our backyard, and he could have cared less, even though he was an Eagle Scout. He loved camping. He was into all of the, what we see as really guy stuff. He loved having kids, and it was irrelevant to my dad and my mom that they had girls. And so in my dad's mind, we were just raised to learn how to do all the things that he felt was important. So we knew how to change tires, rotate tires, hang gutters, roof the house, you name it, we did it. And we all learned how to use power tools. And, that has served us well, all of my sisters and I. But really, I think more than anything, he was a plastics mold engineer. But when he started,
Oh, wow.
he had just come out of the Army. He served in the Korean War conflict, and he was looking for a career. And so he got a job working on a press brake. And they were moving one of the really heavy pieces of machinery around. And in that last second, right before they dropped it, it nudged just a couple of inches. And that nudging, when it dropped, meant that it fell on my dad's foot and crushed his right foot. And he had just met this captivating woman named Anita, ballroom dancing the weekend before.
Oh, no.
School friends at the Aragon Ballroom. It's infamous in Chicago. And immediately was told that his foot would need to be amputated, or at a minimum, probably at least 2 or 3 of his toes, starting with his big toe. And he absolutely refused and said no. He had had polio as a kid and did not walk with a limp. He had fought through to make sure that his gait was steady. And so he found, this is before the internet, before you had any of that at your fingertips, found an orthopedic surgeon who was willing to take the chance and save his entire foot and his toes. My mom comes to find out, she goes for dancing and this captivating Lou isn't there, and finds out he had this horrible accident. So she shows up the next day at the hospital with a Popular Mechanics and with Cracker Jacks. And he was so touched that a woman that he'd only met once, his own friends hadn't even come, and she's looking at really this mauled foot that's suspended with all the stuff. She was raised on a dairy farm. So, I mean, she was a strong woman. Really was all about just making sure he was comfortable. She didn't bring flowers or candy. She intrinsically knew to bring him a Popular Mechanics and then to bring the Cracker Jacks. And so, that was it. He was bound and determined to come fighting back, and he did. And ultimately, without a college degree, he went on to become a plastics mold engineer. And I just so admired him, even from a little kid. Just his presence, his sense of humor, and just the way his mind worked was so operationally logic. It resonated to me. And as it turns out, that's just how my mind works. So, I mean, I was super comfortable with that. He could explain something to me in terms that I understood. So, when you're a kid, you're told, go do that, go whatever. Well, I was that obnoxious child that had to keep asking why. And he would look at me and he would say, because if you don't do this, then this, and this doesn't happen. And I said, oh, okay. And I would go do it. And I can remember my mom repeatedly saying, why does she have to be like that? The other girls aren't like that. And my dad was like, well, Charlie's always done the exact same thing. So it's kind of funny. It all comes back. But that's why. I mean, that man was just a mountain of a man, and yet as gentle as could be. And there was a point in time when he sat me down as a young teenager and told me, being a woman is probably the greatest gift that God could give anyone. You are going to have the ability to hopefully go on and carry a child and birth a child. And there is no bigger miracle than that. And so, whatever you go through, whatever, you hear in life, just remember that, you've got this amazing, amazing gift. And, that really hit me. You don't often hear dads talking to their daughters about that, but I got to say, gentlemen, it really hit me between the eyes. There was a lot of hormones and emotions going on when he sat me down and we had that conversation. And I really pulled a lot of strength from that. And unfortunately, he only got to meet our first 2 kids before he passed. But they've all heard the story. They all know it. And they talk about Pa Lou in the present, like Pa Lou's this, Pa Lou's tool, Pa Lou's words of wisdom come up pretty often. So anyway, that was a long-winded answer, Curt. I apologize.
That was such a blessing. I don't know. Are we getting a little feedback? That was an amazing, incredible. I am so touched now. Like I'm at a loss of words.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever been at a loss of words. Like you gave me chills. So Lou, thank you for all you did to raise this gift of a woman.
Yes.
Oh my God. If I could be, Damon, if we could be a fraction of the father that Lou was, man, I will consider myself a massive success. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you for sharing that
Yes.
story. So,
Yes.
guys, what? All right, you're just getting like we're just starting. Like
Where do we go from here?
So, hey, Val is here. Val, we got
Yeah,
Jim on here. Vicky is
let's
here.
go down. We got James is here. We got
Gary says, "What?" Oh,
Shame,
James is here. Gary says, "What a
Val.
great story." So, yeah,
I
guys,
don't
let
know
us
who this is, but change your
Hey.
account so we can see next time. Jamin. We got Vicky. Yeah, Gary again saying, "What's a great story." Yeah.
So, all right. So let's so again, if you're here, connect with Nancy on LinkedIn. I'm all right, Nancy. I know that you. What are you trying to make? You're gonna make us cry today?
No, no.
I'm teasing.
Hell, it's easy for me. You already did that.
That was such a moving story. I am so touched right now. So, all right. You have 4 sons. Did I hear you say that correctly? You have 4 sons. Now, if I'm not mistaken, you might be a military mom. We've got a ton to unpack on e-commerce, but I want to give a shout out as a military mom. Let's give a shout out to the boys.
So I wound up, there's that funny kind of old wives' tale that, you wind up marrying somebody just like your father, women do. And
how about Nancy? How about this comment here? I love, and you know what? And you fired off so much.
Okay, let me go back to the mom mechanics. Okay, so we still have that subscription. When my dad passed, we switched it over to one of my son's names, and now we still get it as a family. It's a really different thing. And really quick, I got to just tell you this because this one's going to really make you cry.
All right.
Okay.
So, wait, let me find my Kleenex.
Oh, great.
I was mentioning to you about the Cracker Jacks. So that became like a little inside thing between my parents. They got married. They had 2 kids right away. They lived in an apartment in Evanston above a grocery store, a 1-bedroom. My sisters got the bedroom and they slept on a pull-out sleeper sofa. When they were expecting me several years later, they knew they had to buy a house, and they'd been really careful with their money and saving. And so what my mom didn't know is that my dad had been saving money for years in a can that he kept hidden in this little tiny apartment. And he had gone and bought her a beautiful wedding band that had no stones or anything, because when they got married, she'd gotten this beautiful traditional wedding set that had diamonds. Well, there was no way she was wearing that day to day, schlepping the girls up 2 flights of stairs to get to their apartment. So she never had a wedding ring on, and that really bothered her. So they went to the park across the street from where their apartment was, and she didn't know that my dad had taken an X-Acto knife, opened the bottom of one of the boxes of Cracker Jacks, pulled out the prize, had carefully sliced it open, slipped the ring in, re-glued the whole thing, then kept track of which box it was, because they had one for the girls and one for them, handed her the box, and she was like, "Oh, I'm not going to have any right now." And poor Lou was like, "Oh, come on, I feel like having some." And she goes, "Will you open it?" He goes, "No, just come on, have some." So she opens it, and he goes, "Well, we got to see what the prize is." And she's like, "Yeah, okay." And my sisters are all excited. So my mom pulls it out. She rips it open, and there sits the ring.
Yeah.
So Lou, cool. Man, that engineer.
Yeah, man, did Lou set the bar high or what?
He did.
No doubt.
So anyway, what do? I wind up meeting a man that I didn't realize at the time was a lot like my dad. And he was very different, and he was not. He was the same. And he had all of the best qualities, an engineering mind, and just very operationally related. And so as a result, we waited a while to have kids. And then when we did have kids, we had 4 sons within 6 years. And then kind of said, okay, that's probably a pretty good number. I think we'll stop there.
Good place to stop.
So we did. So anyway, I've got these 4 boys. They're real close in age. They are extremely close. And the first 2 kids, very passionate about history, and to a certain degree, political science. Not so much the politics, but more the economic impact that changes occur throughout the world, depending on who's running things and who's pulling strings. My oldest is in his 4th year in the Army. He was a history poli-sci double major and then jumped into the Army, and is a linguist with the Army. Awesome. And the next kid is very much on the ops side into pricing analysis. My 3rd son is a rocket scientist. He's building rockets out in the Mojave Desert. And my 4th son is in college right now, and he is really interested in global economics and how those get influenced. So
Very cool.
that's what he's studying.
Well, perfect. All right. So if you're just joining us, we've got Nancy O'Leary, Vice President at Custom Direct. And Damon, did you pick this up? We had a rocket scientist conversation on Monday with a guest. So if somebody ever says like, "Oh, geez, Nancy, it's not like you raised a rocket scientist," you're like, "Yeah, I did raise a rocket scientist." And what's fascinating, her son that's in the military. Thank you, God bless you for your son serving our country proudly. I know you are super proud. And if I believe, if I have this story correctly, it was not like he was a master of languages. It was discovered that he had a gift for languages. And Damon, like they recruited him.
Yeah.
Can you just share that real quick?
It's real funny. He had 2 years of high school Spanish and he hated it. And I mean, hated it. And that was it. And ironically enough, just his passion for history, he saw the military as a great opportunity to serve his country and to really just get in, really wanted to get in and really understand the commitment and some of the strategy that goes behind some of what we do. And so one of the things that they had him take was an exam, an ASVAB, and then from there, the indication that perhaps he might have some ability with languages. And so then he was put in a room and with a monitor and a keyboard, and a fake language was put up, and he had to read it and then answer a whole bunch of questions. And he came out and he had scored extremely high. And they said, "We want you to do this." And he was just laughing. He was like, "No, I'm not really." They're like, "They are."
Well,
so
that's awesome.
All right, so let's dig in. All right, man.
We got
David, I told you, like, we're gonna be,
okay, people want to talk about
we're gonna talk about e-commerce.
If you want to talk about e-commerce, we're gonna be here till like 5 o'clock Eastern time. All right, so Nancy, let's go here. You work with manufacturers. You do an amazing job with IMEC. IMEC is the Illinois MEP. Any friends of the show, if you're not familiar with the MEP, Manufacturing Extension Partnership, if whatever state you're coming from, there is an MEP near you. Nancy and her team at Custom Direct are doing amazing work helping manufacturers figure out this whole digital transformation, e-commerce. So Nancy, let me start here. Like, why manufacturers? Why you and your team at Custom Direct? Why are you so passionate about moving the needle for manufacturers?
Custom Direct been around for a little over 35 years, and we really started leaning into the industrial sector several years ago, really shortly before I joined the team about 6 years ago now. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest with you, there is such a balance between the creative side of marketing and then the operational side of manufacturing. Both of them follow a process. Both of them look for measured results. And so it was such a natural fit. And what we found was we were speaking the same language. Mm-hmm. We take a goal-oriented approach. What do you want your growth to be? And let's work together to get you there. We very much, this is the one thing I'll say, we don't start with tactics and then say, here, this is what you need, and let's put you on a retainer that's X amount a month and all the rest of it. We feel that that's really kind of like a random acts of marketing. We'd love to lean into what your goals are. What's your growth goal and how fast you want to get there? Because that's really going to determine, what your investment is going to look like. And that resonates. I mean, everybody wants to have a say in how much they're going to spend, and everyone wants to see results. I mean, honestly. And so for us, manufacturing is such a cool, comfortable fit. And I don't know, we must be doing something right because we've got some phenomenal impacts.
Yeah. Absolutely. So 28, I know you've been posting, I saw 28, and for folks out there, describe impact. And we won't geek out too hard because I know that's like more MEP language, but just like for our manufacturers here and just from a marketing standpoint, what do you mean by impact?
So you can think of it like an ROI. So, you're putting, on average, we worked with in just one single program. We had several last year, but just one. And it was with 28 different manufacturers. And they had an investment of around $5,500. Now, there were some of those manufacturers had more than one project. So the numbers, you got to know that there was just under 50 projects total, but it was 28 manufacturers. Their investment per project was around $5,500, but their ROI was more like $78,000.
Yeah.
So when you multiply that out, so that's really what an impact is. And IMEC is such a tremendous partner. So they really work very hard to ensure that every single client of theirs is getting exactly what they were looking for, and hopefully even a little bit more than that. And so they keep all of us I would like to say they keep us all honest. They make sure that we're all remaining goal oriented, and that projects don't necessarily scope creep, or that they don't fall back. And that really at the end, that client is seeing the impacts that they were hoping for, and maybe again, even better than that by the time the project concludes. And they do tremendous follow-up. They follow up 90 days later, 6 months later, a year later. And that's why, we're able to really conclusively see that the numbers were pretty darn good, to be honest.
Definitely. And so we've had, as a matter of fact, we've had many friends from IMEC on the program here, Damon. We've had, and I'm almost like not regretful. I'm almost like reluctant to mention, because I know I'm going to leave somebody out. But of course, Dave Belay is their fearless leader. Melissa, Michelle Fawcett, Jacqueline, Paula's been on the program. We've had Cameron on the program. Cassie's been on the program. Ray Zagano, our buddy Ray Zagano. So Christy Johns. Hopefully if I'm missing anybody, man, please forgive me. But just an incredible team. And again, if this is, you're like, wait, who are these people? What are you talking about? So it's a manufacturing extension partnership, whatever state you're in. Boy, Google MEP, drop me a note, drop Nancy a note, and we'll get you connected with your local MEP. If you are in the great state of Illinois, boy, you definitely want to connect with Nancy, definitely want to connect with IMEC. So Nancy, let's dig in. E-commerce 101. I'm a manufacturer out there. Maybe I'm a job shop. I bend metal, I cut steel, whatever I do. Man, how does, when I hear e-commerce, I think, man, that's just for Amazon. Can you dispel that myth?
Absolutely. First and foremost, if you're joining us or you're watching this later, kudos to you. Pat yourself on the back, because you are understanding that as a manufacturer, e-commerce is vitally important to your growth. Right now, e-commerce is the fastest growing sales channel for the last 18 months within manufacturing. And I'm going to repeat that. It's the fastest growing sales channel. And it supports your sales efforts. It doesn't replace anybody, but it supports it. So I think it's helpful to kind of have two schools of thought going here. Keep in mind, when we talk about e-commerce, absolutely, we're talking about cart functionality. Somebody can go on your site and they can purchase a product. But I want to be sure that you realize that there's also another version of e-commerce that does not involve cart functionality. So if you're joining us and you're thinking to yourself, I don't know that I want to go through everything that's involved with, e-commerce and building out the cart, which we're going to tell you how straightforward it is. But perhaps you know that just for the products that you provide, or even the services, that's not going to be anything viable for you in the foreseeable future. There's something called a configurator. And what a configurator is, in the most simplest terms, is it's a conditional logic RFQ form. And it is a powerful tool to have on your website that nurtures a visitor through making some very preliminary foundational decisions. And then based on those decisions on what they might be interested in getting a quote on, it walks them through what their very specific options are within each of those areas. So for instance, if maybe you've got a system that you sell, and your system might have 10 different levels of decisions that need to be made. Let's say it's something that has rollers and it has lubrication. And if you've got all these different elements, a user could walk through a sophisticated but very user-friendly form that helps them decide what components they want for their system. And they hit submit at the end, and that goes to your sales team. So no longer are they just getting maybe just a dialogue box, or with just text in it, or maybe a couple of radio buttons like, I think I want this and I think I want that. No, they're actually walk through what a person would do. They're walking through all those decisions. They hit submit. And now you can have a very intelligent conversation about exactly what that person is looking for. And they'll let you know, I want to be contacted by phone or by email. And there is a text box oftentimes. You can say, I wasn't sure about this one level. I selected these kind of rollers, but I don't know, should I select the other ones for what I'm looking to do? That kind of a thing. And you get you're taking your sales funnel, and you're literally 3/4 of the way in now, because now you've got a very clear idea of what they're looking for. You already have the pricing. The person filling out the form doesn't necessarily see the pricing, but you do, your sales team does. And they can come back with a really learned response, and it's wildly successful. So I just want to say, keep in mind, if you're thinking in the back of your mind, you're not really a cart kind of a company, consider the fact that configurators are probably the way to go. They're definitely what's to come. Filling out a contact form, yeah, that's great. I'm not going to, poo-poo it, but you're going to need more than that. You really are to be competitive, because if you're not doing it, your competitors are, because it's what's happening.
All right, drop. I'm not sure how many mics have been.
I'm writing so many notes here.
Yeah, there's like my mic is broke. Like I've dropped it so many times so far. So, and just to kind of recap, Nancy, what you just said, mission critical. E-commerce is no longer a nice to have. It is mission critical. And the last thing you just said, if you're not doing it, Nancy, what did you say?
Your competition is.
Your competition is doing it. So, and if you're out there, if you're just like, hey, I'm kind of getting this configurator. What do you like? It's just like, hey, if you want to, I got this funky, really expensive shirt, Damon. I think I bought it Old Navy for like $5. But anyway, if you want to get this shirt and you want different colors, different size, different whatever, something, you go online, like, hey, I want a small, I want an extra large, I want this color, I want that. I mean, that is a configurator. That's what she's describing. This is super cool, Damon. And we just booked a guest for next month. It's a solar panel company. They have an extremely sophisticated configurator, and they're going to come on in June, and they're going to show a case study.
Really, it's gonna open your eyes to so many possibilities. And here's the thing: you may have a situation where you have products you sell, and you may need a configurator for some of the bigger areas, some of the bigger products. And so it's not mutually exclusive, and then there's the true cart functionality. And, I know that we're a little bit, short on time, but I'm going to go ahead and hit share if I can.
Please do.
Yeah, we'll do. We'll put it up there for you. Here we go.
What I got up here.
And
now we got it.
You know what? And we're coming right at the top of the hour. So again, if you just jumped off a call and you're joining us, hey, Nicole Donnelly's here today, Damon.
All right.
Here's
MT Solar.
Yeah,
there we go.
That's the solar. And so, guys, if you're just joining us, top of the hour,
Deo's here. Awesome. Great seeing you, Deo.
Hey, Deo. And Gary Wood says, hey, we're running out of mics. But real quick.
Running out of mics. Yep. We keep breaking them. They keep building them.
We're with Nancy O'Leary. She's in Chicago. She's vice president of Custom Direct, e-commerce and digital marketing expert. Very passionate. And what we're doing is we're walking through e-commerce 101. Nancy, take it away. Let's take everybody right through this process.
And I've dropped the link here in the chat as well for everyone. So this is a downloadable checklist for anyone to take a look at, to use. And what we've done is we have streamlined the process so that for a company that's considering e-commerce, and I'll be honest with you, the first question we hear every single time, and it's not is this going to cost? It's how much of my time do I have to give it? And so we've developed this list because really at the end of the day, time is money. And so it's a great conversation to have. Everybody can go to the link and you can download it. And more or less, we really lean into using WordPress as the platform that we build on. We are an agnostic agency, so we can work on any platform, but we lean into WordPress for a couple of reasons. Number one, 75% of the websites in use in the entire world are built on WordPress. And not that we like to follow what everyone else does, but when it comes to e-commerce and the huge vital need to keep that data secure, really WordPress is the gold standard. Their aspect of e-commerce is called WooCommerce. That's WordPress, and so it's the gold standard. I mean, they have 24/7 support, and they are a phenomenal partner to work with. And so enough about WordPress, but just so that you'll see all of the information that's on here, we've got a WordPress foundation in mind on it. First and foremost, I'm just going to casually mention this checklist is going to be really specific, but at the very beginning, everyone take a look. These are just some of the basic assumptions that we make here on our team. Things like, dimension units are in inches and the weight unit is in pounds and things like that. When we think about shipping, we're assuming the continental United States. You may think the continental North America, which would then naturally include Canada, or maybe it's international. But these are conversations that you want to have with your partner when it comes to building an e-commerce site. Make sure that you're all on the same page, no pun intended, when it comes to what these key assumptions are. But now we'll just touch on the nitty gritty. Oops, I'm so sorry. I didn't do that right, did I? And here we go. There's going to be some basic steps here. There's 4 key steps. Very first one, shop details. This is where we're really leaning into your expertise. This is the information you're going to need to put together. I know everyone can read, and you're going to hopefully go and download this checklist for yourself. But you can see that the configuration details, these are specific to the shop, not the product and not the cart. This is how your shop will work. For instance, things like, are you going to allow customer reviews? Are you going to have shop notifications so that if there's any kind of an issue with an order, somebody's going to get notified? And if so, who is that person? Here's a key one, product stock. You can have your e-commerce linked to your ERP system so that it notifies, you're out of stock or low stock or when it's
and
coming.
then what's it do? What does it do? Does it keep showing that, or does it take it down for people to buy?
Does it take it down, or does
That's
it
a huge thing that we've run into before.
It is. They have to talk to each other.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that when you're moving forward with a solution, your ERP system, as well as, and we're going to get to it with the payment processing, your financial system is linked. The whole idea of this is to streamline, not to make things more complicated for you. This is to support your sales effort, not to give somebody one more thing that they have to do. And then terms and conditions and privacy, like you need those kinds of pages, whenever you start talking about commerce online. Product details. This is so deceiving. This is the most deceiving part of the entire checklist. Sure. It's like, there's like 8 or 9 things I got to come up with. Oh, crap, I can bang this out in 5 minutes. I got to tell you, this is where the heavy lifting occurs with a client. We've got a template that we provide that's really an Excel spreadsheet, and you can import all of your products right into it, and you can see all the kinds of information that you need to have ready to go. I will mention this. Let's say you have 5,000 products and you're thinking, oh gosh, we're never going to be ready for this. I'd like to make a suggestion. We really embrace the idea of an iterative approach. So maybe you don't put all of your products online right away. That might be too much for you guys to handle, especially if it comes to you need an image for each one. Why don't you start with a specific product line? Or if that's still too big, narrow it down even more. Get your feet wet. See how it works. Iterative is absolutely okay. And there's great ways to let any visitor to your website know that there's more products that are available, and complete a form, reach out. You don't have to have everything ready right out of the gate if that's just going to be too big of a project for you. And then, we talk a little bit here, just a little FYI, when you're taking pictures, this is the size you need. We're going to touch base just a little bit at the end about product categories and kind of what that really means. But let's just keep moving. Okay, so you've already figured out your shop. You've got all your product details. Now accepting payments. And basically, you've got 3 main options. And you can really do any combination of these. If you already use PayPal, you may want to continue to use that. Or you may use Stripe. You may want to continue to use it. I'm going to tell you, we really lean into WooCommerce because you can have all of that in there, and it integrates seamlessly with a WordPress site. And when I stress the word seamlessly, think security. You really want to keep things as tight as possible. Everything locks in, and you're not going to have any naughty business going on. Not that PayPal or Stripe isn't secure. I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm just saying if you're looking for the most secure method on a WordPress site, WooCommerce is the way to go, and you've got lots of options there. And we clearly tell you what the fees are, and we keep it updated. So, you kind of get an idea of what your volume might be. You know what you're going to be spending. And then shipping. Boy, who doesn't love to talk about shipping? Shipping. There's so many options, domestic, international. So we cover FedEx, we cover UPS, and we cover USPS. Here's what I'm going to say about it. You can choose all of them as a carrier or one of them. At the end of the day, there's an annual cost beyond just hosting an e-commerce site, which tends to run about $125 a month. There is the cost of ensuring that the plugins that these carriers charge. So it would integrate with your existing account with any of them, but they've got a charge. Usually it's around $50 a year. But, keep in mind, if you wanted to do all 3, you're adding another $150 on to whatever you're spending. And then last but certainly not least, just want to touch on this really quick on the appendix, if you're happening to look at the whole checklist. The terms and the privacy policy. Again, you got to have those pages. We can help you. Anybody can help you. Your attorney, your corporate attorney. There's just a lot, but you need to have those. You cannot launch an e-commerce site without those pages. Product taxonomy. If you're not familiar with it, wow, that could be an entire conversation.
Yes.
On that. But I'm going to leave you with this thought. To your point, Curt, you're bringing up like buying a shirt. So I'm going to bring up the word Amazon. If you think about it, when you start filtering down, that's really what product taxonomy is. It's the categories and then it's the attributes. And so the easiest way to think of it is if you have a specific product, but it comes in different sizes or in different colors, how you handle that within your company. They would more than likely all have completely different SKUs, or they should. But do you see them in that kind of a hierarchy, or do you just see them as completely standalone, separate products? And it's important to kind of get your head around that before the build occurs on the site, because that's going to really determine and influence how that information gets displayed then to a user.
Yeah, because your product tree is real key to that, into how you're gonna have people looking for something and it's not in the right place. Because like if you go onto eBay, I think eBay is one of them where you can really see how they go down through the product tree, or whatever you say, taxonomies to get to where you want to go. You got to think about that.
You do, and there's cool ways to kind of help with that too, where you could have similar items, or people also look at all of those that we've all become really familiar with. So that information can all be there. So you don't have to worry that somebody's only going to see one product, but you want them to see these 3 other that might also fit. There's ways to display that information so that it's helpful, but it's not an overload.
Man, Damon, I don't know about you, but I what's the name of the program? What do we call this show?
I think we call it Manufacturing E-commerce Success.
Man, do we have the perfect guest? My goodness gracious, man. So, hey, real quick, Damon, let's give a shout out. We've got some really nice comments coming in.
Yeah,
here.
we do.
Nicole drops, hey, reduces the overwhelm. Great advice. Gary's dropping a comment. Sajay dropped a comment. So, guys, keep those comments coming. I thought I saw a comment about AI. Nancy, let's say I know we're starting to come into time.
Yeah, I saw that back here too.
We were chatting a little bit about AI. You know what? Let's hit that real quick, Nancy, if you don't mind, Damon.
Yeah, I was actually talking about it with a client this week.
Yeah.
Okay. Does AI drastically improve customer service, Nancy? We won't go super deep because I want to come back to your checklist, but your feedback on that question.
So, we just attended IMA, Illinois Manufacturing Association, had their huge Hallmark event, their business day on Wednesday. And so we attended that down in Springfield. And, I have to admit, we had a working knowledge of AI as an agency. We would need to, but we walked away from that learning so much more. Here's the Evelyn Wood speed reading synopsis on it. There are incredible tools which are being developed very rapidly that will enable you to provide outstanding information to your prospects and your customers. And there's a lot of concern about AI in general. And is there a political leaning to it? Here's the information that I honestly didn't even know. You can use an AI tool to only use your own proprietary information as its source of information. I'm going to repeat that. Your information is the source of information. So start thinking 3 steps ahead to SEO, to all those other things. You can ensure that folks that are coming to your website are going to find the information about you that you have validated, and you don't have to be concerned that maybe they're going to get information that's going to take them to a competitor's site. So it's kind of like a library on steroids.
Yeah.
And this stuff's getting developed so fast. So yes, I would say right now, it's going so quickly, and you're hearing so many different opinions on whether it's good, bad, or what should we do. I would say keep an eye on it. Play with it. I absolutely, there's some competition coming to ChatGPT. I think that the concept originally was that it was open source, that everyone would be able, to take a look at how things were put together. And, ChatGPT is not open source anymore. It's closed. And so that's where a lot of the pushback is occurring, is folks are saying, well, what did your test protocols look like? And when you research those test protocols, which I did, I used to do test protocols a long time ago. I got to admit, even I was concerned. You're only getting information kind of from one perspective, and it's heavily influencing the answers that you're getting. But be aware and be patient, because things are being developed so rapidly. I would expect in less than a year's time, there's going to be a plethora of tools available for everyone to be able to use that are going to be solid and open source.
Right. Okay. All right. So hopefully, I hope that answered that question. Let's come back into e-commerce. You have this checklist, manufacturer out there just starting. Like, boy, Nancy, thank you for the checklist. It's a DIY. I still don't know what to do. What advice do you have for the manufacturer to reach out? They need a trusted guide, resource like yourself. Like, how can they get into the game?
I would say have a conversation. Honestly, we'd love to talk to you, but there are some really phenomenal third-party resources through IMEC, Curt. You just know a whole plethora of folks. But I would really encourage you to take a look at the checklist and talk to your team and say, are we ready for this? How much of our brain space is it going to take to pull some of this information together? But then just find out, because oftentimes there is a solution, an iterative solution that gets you in the game. And then you can keep moving on that. Don't be afraid to get started. I'll be honest with you, it's usually a lot easier than you think. And that procrastination hurts you. It takes up space in your brain that you shouldn't even waste time on.
Well, and I think you make a great point too, Nancy, is that in the beginning, there's this huge hill that you need to climb. And I really think that's the time when the outside resources can provide you the things you need to get started and get over that hill. And if you're taking the iterative approach, I'm not looking at putting all 5,000 SKUs, as you said, on once. We're going to put our top 250 or 1,000 that are our best sellers, and we're going to start there, and they're going to help us do that. And we're going to learn the templates that we need and everything we need to add the others over time. And it becomes a great thing that you can get done, because I think what companies do a lot of times, they say, okay, we're going to do it, and no one has the time to do it. And they sit there a year later and it's not done.
Man, you're preaching to the choir.
You
Honestly,
Mike, David just dropped his own mic. David.
And honestly, we're success driven. We want to see you succeed. Those 28 projects that we worked on last year in that one program, the impacts were $3.25 million.
I'm sorry. Wait, I'm Nancy.
Yeah.
I'm not a young man anymore. I didn't hear you correctly. How much?
$3.25 million.
Hey, how about everybody? Little round of applause for Nancy right there. So and again, if you guys are just joining us, she mentioned earlier 28 manufacturers. There was a 12-fold return on investment on average with every single product. I'll take that return all day, every day. And I love what you're describing, Nancy. So, we do, folks that come to our program, like we do our webinars, jam sessions. We like to get everybody out. I call myself, I'm like the crazy uncle, get your kids all juiced up. And then what we like to do is then we're going to hand you off to the expert like Nancy and her team to implement and get this party started. Right.
Yeah.
And that's really it. I mean, I don't have any tattoos, but if I did, one of them might be just get started. Truly just get started. Because the unknown is so much scarier than the known. And that's what this checklist does. We hope that it just opens your eyes to the fact, okay, yes, some of this looks a little intense, but now now it's not in the back of your mind like, oh yeah, we got to get that done. You do actually, and it's not that bad.
And there's like you said, it's not that bad. And it's something that honestly, a lot of internal teams could do. Mm-hmm. You could do it. And I think this is a struggle. And I'm going to mention it again. You could probably do it, but someone that's doing it every day can do it a lot faster and probably with a lot less mistakes than you're going to have in the beginning.
Right.
To get this stuff going, because as you said, e-commerce is the fastest growing sales channel in manufacturing right now. And you got to get on because your competitors are going to do it.
What, like I heard the stat, and if I repeat it, like Amazon last quarter for B2B sales is just an insane. I don't know. Google it, look it up. I won't repeat it because I know I'll probably butcher it, but it is insane. And so, hey, Damon, by the way, over your shoulder, you have my mom's favorite book right there, and in that book, there's it's Nancy. It's by my mom's favorite son, and in the book, I shamelessly had to go here. For that configurator, or exactly what Nancy's describing in the book, here's the last tip, and then Nancy, we're going to slide in another topic real quick as we wind down. Take the 20% that drives your 80%. You know, like what,
Yeah.
and like what Nancy described is we don't need to take on the whole project. Damon, I need a new cliche because I don't like saying eat the whole elephant. It just doesn't sound very appropriate or very polite. We need a new one. But instead of tackling that whole project, take the 20%. Take the 20% that drives the 80% of your sales, that drives 80% of your products, or your profits. You reach out to a Nancy. Nancy, I'm sorry, how much does WordPress cost? I forgot.
The building a whole site, or just
not your cost, but if somebody wanted to get on WordPress, like what does WordPress cost? Right? It's negligible, you know.
It's, I mean, I'm talking, I think it's less than $200. I mean,
right. Negligible. It's negligible. You're right. WooCommerce, negligible. A lot of these plugins are negligible. What you need, you're paying for Nancy's experience, expertise, that guidance to get through that process. But I mean, it doesn't need to be a massive, oh my goodness, how are we going to fit this in a budget project? So that was my point. I just wanted to share.
And here's the thing, open source. I mentioned it with AI. WordPress is open source. Now, some folks can build in WordPress and then they can customize it and turn it into something that it's not. But WordPress in its nature is open source. And so what that means to you is you can go in and you can make changes to your own website. That's what we encourage. So when we build e-com sites, and perhaps we're only doing a small portion of it, at the end, we train you, we show you, we provide you videos so you can add your own products as time goes on. You can update your products. You can change pictures out. You can change anything on your website, because we don't want anyone to feel beholden to us. We want to open the gate and let you run because you know your business.
That is the mark of a true professional.
Preach, sister.
I'm just gonna say,
and that was like
educating.
That was like
educating and let them go.
And go, because you know we like to say, you know, we really understand manufacturing, and you know I've got a personal information in it and background in it a little bit with my dad and all, but like you know I certainly don't know how to operate a CNC machine. I can talk the talk. I know there's polystyrene and polypropylene when we talk about plastics. I can spell them both. But I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not running a manufacturing company. And so, you know, gosh, hand the keys over. Just get you going and then run with it. And, you know, whether it's our agency or another one, they can be there to help support you. And if you hit something that you're not quite sure how to do, or you forget or what have you, sure. But at the end of the day, if you are growth oriented, and man, that's the key. If you're looking for growth, that's what you're looking to do. Get started and then just keep going.
Nancy, what do you think of this question here? Will manufacturers reduce their dependence on distributors and retailers? Any thoughts there?
Yeah. Okay. So that's a really tricky one. And I'm glad that it was brought up. So here's the deal. If you are an organization and you have dealer distributors and you decide to go e-com, so you want to go direct to your customers, say you've got some really big ones like Walmart or what have you. I don't know that they're going to reduce their dependence, but it does present an interesting relationship shift, because now you're dealing direct and you've got to make decisions for those dealer distributors. Are they going to get a cut of whatever you sell within their region? Do you just bypass them altogether and run the risk of annoying them? Or are you going to take folks and send them to your dealer distributor page to maybe complete the sale? What we've seen to be the most positive solution is taking a very open and candid approach and saying, we are now going to start dealing direct. We're not doing this to cut you out. We're actually doing this to grow our business, which will benefit you in all of these different ways, because naturally you're going to be bringing more customers in. And there may be products that your dealer distributors are dealing with or selling. It was like a redundant word, that maybe you don't provide. So you're really opening up that opportunity for them as well.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead, Damon.
Another thing that dealer distributors, and this is a little bit more challenging, but it's a different way to approach it, is if you're working in an industry that speed to customer is really, really important. If I got distributors all over the country, you can get stuff just like Amazon with their whatever the next day. They can have it next day. They could even have it someday in some cases. If you want to, if that's a big deal in your industry, think about your distributors like that, because it's a whole different approach that you can go ahead of your competition.
Yeah. And Damon, so a few weeks ago, Nancy, we love talking about the marketplaces. That's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, like say if you're not ready to tip your toe and go full blown on e-commerce, test the marketplaces, Amazon, Walmart. We had DigiKey on last month or a month ago. That was a phenomenal conversation and how they can be a partner to help that manufacturer tip their toe in e-commerce without the risk. And like, all right, let's test the waters under DigiKey because they have this instant massive audience. And now we can contact Nancy and take that e-commerce plunge. Last Friday, we had a great guest on. Nancy, you would have loved this. We had the Buffalo, New York MEP on, and we did a case study with a manufacturer that they do covert antennas. They got in e-commerce, and their phase one is they want it strictly within the family. They opened up a customer portal, so now their customers can buy. Phase 2 or phase 3, then they'll start opening up the doors to invite new customers. They wanted to take this in phases exactly as you described. So
one thing I want to mention, I know we're really short on time. Real quick, we get asked about Shopify quite a bit. Folks say, "Hey, why don't you use Shopify?" He's kind of chuckling. Okay, so I'm not going to come in it like a know-it-all, obnoxious marketing person. I'm going to just say this: Shopify is wildly successful if all you want to do is sell a product. If that's all you want to do. For manufacturers, you do a whole lot more than that. And so while Shopify can be leveraged, keep in mind you are building a page in Shopify that's going to look similar to your website, but not exactly the same, because that's not really what Shopify is about. Shopify is just about selling product. And while the portal can work pretty smooth, it's not the same as being integrated. And then we start to get concerned about your ERP, about your payment processing. You know, you're adding a level of complexity to have a simplified shopping build for yourself. It's not really, I mean, Damon, tell me what you think. I mean, it's more the build side. People like to about Shopify because it is very straightforward. It's a plug and play. But all the rest
for the products it is. For the products it is. But go in and try to customize your web pages in the thing.
No.
I mean, it's a great low cost entry for products, like you said. You can do it.
Right. But at the end, it tends to make everything a whole lot more complicated and a little bit nerve-wracking. The security is not quite there.
Right. Yeah. So lots of, you know what, Nancy, we might have to have you back, and we might have like a shopping cart evaluation conversation. That would be that'd be a great topic. All right, Nancy, let's go here. I know you are super busy. You're saving manufacturers all over the place. $3.25 million of impact, 28 manufacturers. That was just one project. That was just one project. So you are absolutely crushing it with your team. You are fierce advocate for women in manufacturing. You have 4 young boys. God bless you're a military mom. And so for young people, women in manufacturing, Nancy, why are all the cool kids going into manufacturing? And if they're not thinking about it, why should they be?
Oh my gosh. So here's the thing. Not just women. At this point in manufacturing, we need everyone to consider it. I got to tell you, I support any initiative that encourages women to become interested in a career in manufacturing. But I'm going to go a step further and say we have to encourage all of the young people to consider a career in manufacturing. And I don't care whether you go on to college or not. And if you go on to college, you better really seriously think about a career in manufacturing, because there are going to be so many avenues that are going to be open to you. You're going to have a hands-on career. You're not going to be sitting in a cubicle or sitting in your apartment with your computer with nobody to talk to. You are guaranteed, and this might scare some people, you're guaranteed you're going to be working with people. Every single day is going to be cool. And I don't mean that lightly. Every single day, you're going to be learning how stuff gets made, how it gets put together. I mean, there is not a single personality type out there or IQ level that should not be considering a career in manufacturing. It's literally that exciting. I mean, the age that my kids are at, you know, some of them have friends that their careers are kind of sputtering a little bit. And I'm that mom. I'm like, okay, manufacturing, let's talk. What are you thinking about? Because if your vision of manufacturing is this dark, damp, smelly, smells like oil and grease and, you know, maybe plastic, you know, that's previous generations. What we've got now is incredible. And I will say this, some of that, not all of it, some of that is the influence of women that are now leading manufacturers. I'm going to be really sexist here. You know, women kind of usher in a little bit more of the aesthetics, a little bit more of the culture, company culture, and what we've got going. And together, you know, with the longevity of what's already been established in such a robust industry in this country, I mean, the sky's the limit. All you got to do is see the excitement that's going on with companies that are, for instance, building rockets. Well, how do you think all that gets built? Where do you think all those parts come from? What about electric vehicles? What about the charging stations? If you stop and think for a moment, where everything you touch, where does that come from? Somebody's making it. Now, I know that that's an oversimplification, and everybody watching is probably like, okay, thanks, Captain Obvious. But you know what? You gotta tell kids that. You have to.
They don't know,
because they're not thinking that at all.
They don't know.
In a previous life, I worked at a college prep in the city, and I was going and talking to kids in middle school and to their parents. And let me tell you something. Kids today, and I'm going to sound so old saying this, by the time they're in like 3rd grade, they already have ideas of what they want to do with their life. Now, they might wildly change, but you want to know who influences that the most? This is going to surprise you. It's their parents. Their parents' opinion on something wildly affects kids at that age. And those are the folks that we need to be talking to. In my mind, and the work that I do is to talk to parents, to help parents understand that their child, absolutely, regardless of where they fall on the education spectrum, they have a career in manufacturing, because you got to start with the parents so they can have those conversations. And I could talk for 2 hours straight. The books that we use in schools today, the examples that they give, do not mention manufacturing. They're nonsense. We have to go back to incorporating manufacturing concepts so that kids in grammar school are very familiar with the idea that when you add this to this, you make that. Because we're not doing that. There's a little bit of a resurgence now with shop classes in high school and stuff. I applaud it. I think it's great. But I am screaming from the rooftops. We got to get to the kids in grammar school. We got to start earlier. We got to get them thinking about it earlier. High school, it's not too late, but I mean, they're already got an attitude going. You're going to miss the kids because they're not going to even think about it. You got to get to them, and you got to get to their parents, and you got to get to them before middle school, like before 5th grade. You got to have kids thinking about it. Wow, look at that. You made me jump on my chair a lot. That's my thing, man.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Women in manufacturing, absolutely. You know what? And again, everyone should be thinking about manufacturing, but women, for whatever reasons, man, they have just really been slow to embrace the idea. But thank goodness now, there are some real champions in the industry that their voices are being heard, and, lead by example. You need to see someone that you can relate to out there making it happen, a powerhouse, like Curt likes to say. And, then all of a sudden you get a lot more, heads nodding like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Man, all right. Well, I just get Damon. That was our highlight clip for that was so Nancy. You'll be seeing that little preach again. And hey, John, thank you for joining us. He dropped a little note here about manufacturers utilizing Salesforce. I know we're running out of time. John, thank you for dropping your comments here. And and I want to thank everybody. So as
thanks for the
Nancy. All right, for everybody that's been hanging out with us. First off, thank you for joining us. And how about great opportunity if you've been sitting around. It's a great time to kind of stand up and stretch. And how about giving a big standing ovation for Nancy O'Leary from Chicago, Illinois, passionate about manufacturing. And how about hey, Nicole, my partner in crime, like a great show. So, guys, as we wind down, and we'll probably lose people here at the bottom of the hour, but first off, we want to give a shout out to Lou. Thank you to Lou for being just what a great dad, relentless. Oh gosh, what a great story! I am just like lost of words for Lou. So thank you to Lou. Nancy, thank you to you, your boys, and your son that's serving our country. Thank you for what Custom Direct is doing to help manufacturers. As Nancy just said, manufacturers are the backbone of our economy. They're the heroes of our workforce. And so, boy, hats off to everybody. And like Nancy just said, all the cool kids going in manufacturing. Damon, what do you got, man? What do you got here?
I got nothing.
You got nothing?
I got nothing.
Let's give it to Nancy. Nancy, closing thoughts for everybody. What do you got? Take us home.
I'm going to go have a cup of coffee because, believe it or not, I really didn't have any before this.
Man. That was, well, Nancy, thank you. Thank you, guys. If people want to reach out to you, LinkedIn, social, custom direct, all the above.
Yeah, all of it really. Custom direct. Visit our site, kind of tool around, see what you see. You know, there's a lot of great information on there, regardless of who you work with. Is it in an agency? You know, more often than not, you're going to find a little something that you're going to say, hey, you know what? I don't know that we've ever talked about that. I don't know that my agency's ever mentioned it. Go back and ask them and say, okay, do these guys, you know, does this make sense? Is this a good fit for us? Should we be thinking about that? And, you know, if you're not getting the answers you want, we'd love to chat with you. But you know, I was distracted. I was grabbing my URL from LinkedIn because I didn't do that yet. So I'll drop that in as well. But you can find me, you know, Nancy O'Leary.
Yeah, and you know what, Nancy, we have you linked right on the live. So
yeah, we got
it. You're all over.
You're in both the posts.
Guys, let's
and I answer DMs too. So please don't spam me. But you know, happy to answer questions and not a sales pitch. Happy to answer a question if you're stuck on something. Really just want to see manufacturing growth.
Yep.
So, all right, we'll take her home. So, Nancy, thank you. Everybody, thank you. God bless you guys. Have an amazing, incredible weekend. Damon, we got a great guest on Monday. Nicole Donnelly's filling in. I'm gonna be on a flight, but Damon, take us home. Right, close us out, will you please?
All right. Well, thanks everyone. And thanks for all the awesome comments today, people. I just really we appreciate that. We appreciate your passion for manufacturing, coming in and helping us support Nancy and talking about e-commerce for manufacturers. Remember, it is the fastest growing sales channel for manufacturers. So if you're not getting on that, your competitors will be. Here we go. I can't talk that much because we've had so much fun today, but thanks for joining us for the Manufacturing E-commerce Success today, and we will be back again. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Hang out with us 1 second, Nance.
Okay, we'll do.